Hello everybody, sorry for the lack of uploads. I've been on holiday for a week, went to North Wales, and it was a very fun time. I used pretty much every morning I woke up, because I kept waking up early, to listen to albums. So I got to listen to a bunch of stuff I'm going to review. Most of it will be on the September albums of the month, especially some of the ones I plan to do a separate video on, like Lorna Shore and Silverstein. So just because there's just so much to cover, I'm gonna have to just put it on there because I want to talk about it, but I just don't have the time to do a full video for it. But we're gonna go through the new album by Biffy Clyro, Futique, which is future antique, as the band has stated. It's not an actual word, but they kind of combined it to give it that presence to it. So this is the band's 10th record, and it's their fourth #1 album as well. So yeah, the band's honestly still doing quite well, and I'm happy that they have such a devoted cult following, because they, in the more recent era, while their best material was some of their earlier stuff, I still think Happily Ever After is one of my favourite albums from the band. And well, with new Biffy Clyro taking years to come out, I've been interested in what we've been getting. Now, the only new material we had in kind of a similar vein was Empire State Bastards 2023 record, which I talked about, and that one was amazing. It's pretty dirty and rough, but it feels like it was an outlet for Simon Neil to channel his heavy aspects, so it made sense to kind of use that as a more metal, louder, rougher, experimental approach, and keep Biffy Clyro to kind of a more radio-friendly mainstream direction, which unfortunately was the biggest issue I had with Futique, because if I'd go by the numbers of every Biffy Clyro album, this is probably the most substantial, bland album of theirs, and it feels more it ties into the radio-friendly structure, and then the actual enjoyment that I've personally got from previous albums. I really enjoyed A Celebration of Endings and The Myth of Happily Ever After. Celebration of Endings being kind of the main of the two albums, and the other one being the B-sides. I feel like when the band does B-sides, that's when their best material shines, because the Myth of Happily Ever After has A Hunger in Your Horn, Unknown Male, #1. You also have Errors in the History of Gods. There's so many good songs as well, like Holy Water, Witch's Cup, and yeah, even the funny horse girl for anime reference. So the horse that kept losing every race and unfortunately did pass away, but being most known for losing every race. So it's honestly interesting, the ideas they had for it, and Celebration of Endings just kind of felt like a tamer version of that, obviously being the original stuff. So it feels like Biffy Clyro just kind of really want to put as much restriction onto what the album gives you, and it feels quite that way listening to this. The first few tracks are pretty decent. A Little Love was the lead single, nothing crazy, but a grow of a track. It just feels like a standard Biffy Clyro song in the modern era. Not complaining, this one sounds fine. Hunting Season is quite a good one, but I think in terms of a heavy Biffy Clyro song, it does not even come close to what they've done before. And then I found the True Believer, which I wasn't that big on when this came out. It is growing on me more, I will say. But that's kind of it for the best material. The best material has been what we had already, and I personally found the rest of the record just to really lack in a lot of ways. I feel it's just kind of doing what Ellipsis has already done with the more kind of radio friendly approach. Apart from Ellipsis still was more experimental and had more consistency, this album actually feels front loaded with the best material, and Goodbye honestly kind of was the driving point that made me drift away from the album. I just found that the writing was definitely the worst the band's ever put out. The band that's been able to do amazing ballady tracks in the past, you've had some great ones like God and Satan, and you even had this band that made the biggest hit for them, Many of Horror. So the fact they can go from those kind of songs for ballads to just one called Goodbye with weak lyrics is already a struggle I can see easily on the band. The second half is just very basic. It doesn't really do anything we haven't heard before. A lot of songs are a bit slower. A lot of them just kind of lack the kind of punchiness, just kind of the just normal rock energy. It just feels very by the numbers, just boring, I suppose, and that's kind of the best way to describe Futique. I don't really see what they were trying to get from this, because for a Biffy Clyro album, you're just getting the kind of average view of an outsider who hasn't really listened to Biffy Clyro, and that's kind of how I feel this album was made for. It feels like a description of someone who has very little knowledge on this band, and I've listened to every album, and I generally have enjoyed every album from the band. Even the weakest stuff, being like Ellipsis, to me is still a decent album with some great ideas. But Futique, I think, is the first big kind of downward spiral for Biffy Clyro entirely. They had such an amazing album in 2021, and after 4 years we just kind of get some of the most boring, bland, just generic ideas we've had from the band. Friendshipping onwards, I thought that this could kind of be a turning point where it build up, hit you in the face with some good ideas, but no, it's just poorly written, and it just feels like Biffy Clyro at this point have kind of run out of steam. And I think if their new material kind of stagnates to this direction of just not being that good anymore, I can still see this band being one that kicks ass live, at least similar to Muse, where a lot of modern Muse is kind of a bit convoluted and not very good, but Biffy Clyro has more or less had a lot more consistency than that band. But yeah, Futique to me is just kind of this big disappointment for what could have been a pretty good comeback for Biffy Clyro. Been looking forward to a new album from them, and this just wasn't it, unfortunately. The best songs on this album don't even come close to the best of Biffy Clyro, and I wouldn't even say anything on here is perfect. I feel like even the best songs, there is stuff I change. Hunting Season just kind of doesn't structure itself or transition between the kind of moments of the record as well, so you're getting kind of a chorus that just jumps out with not really a good transition to it, especially to the outro of the song as well. And I know I made this one a track of the week for me, but yeah, I don't think it's still that great anyway. I just didn't really know what else to put for track of the week at the time. I think the most concrete listen probably is A Little Love. It's the most consistent song for me, and True Believer's not too bad. I think at least this one kind of feels like normal Biffy that we know and love, but it's still more or less underwhelming, which is the perfect way to describe this album, underwhelming. But that's all I have to say. I'm going to give this one 2.5 out of 5, because it's inherently not a bad album, but I can definitely struggle to get to the second half of it. It's a very mixed bag of, you got some good songs, but they're not that great, and you've got bad songs, but they're not that bad. I just think it's more or less in the middle. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next video.